Today we welcome to the show Seph Dietlin. And Seph is a psychic who works in the angelic realm. He is also a certified hypnotherapist and energy healer. Seph is the author of Ascension with Angels Tarot. And you can find Seph at talktomyangels.com. And welcome to the show, Seph.
I'm glad to be here, Jamie. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I guess we'll just dive right in. We're going to be talking about how to connect with your angels today. And if you could please tell me about yourself and how your work with angels began.
Yes, I'd love to. Well, first of all, a little anecdotal portion of this is that when I first started connecting with the angels, my first thought was, oh my gosh, I'm never going to be able to tell anyone about this because they're going to think I'm crazy. And now, of course, I'm telling the world about connecting with your angels because it's a very valuable and potent way of really actually getting your power back in the world that we live in today, Jamie, as you know. So my work began in a little over 20 years ago. And at that time, I was a real estate agent, very successful real estate agent in Orange County, California. And if you know the area, which I believe you live in Southern California and from Orange County as well, um, it's an area that's well known for being very materialistically focused and not necessarily very spiritually focused. So at the height of all of that, I had a very big setback, which caused me to have my spiritual awakening. And because it was difficult, a chain of events caused me, for some unknown reason, to call in my angels. But not only that, but I asked them to make themselves tangibly known to me. I told them it wasn't good enough just to know that they were there. I wanted to hear them. I wanted to see them. I wanted to speak to them. I wanted to know that they were actually there. And within seconds, I felt them touching me. I felt them speaking to me from within. I felt peace overcome me and this sense of wonder and realizing that I actually was connected. Something shifted in the room that made me aware that I really was connected to them. And the next morning, of course, after wondering if that was a dream or something weird like that or what, I heard them say hello. I was like, hello.
Oh, wow.
And from there, they started communicating with me, and it's been nonstop since then. And it's an evolving gift, of course. And the way that I would say that is initially, of course, they started to share with me things that would happen during the day. And then they started guiding me to be in certain places. I remember one of the first times they did that, I'd come home from working an open house and I'd set my keys on the counter and they told me to drive to Disneyland. And when I exited Harbor Boulevard, there was a woman and her little boys that were stranded on the off ramp or off to the side of the off ramp and couldn't get themselves out of that because they didn't have a phone with them. And so I was able to help them, and I knew why the angels had sent me there. So as soon as I realized how fun this was to talk to them and to be of service, I was like, ooh, let's do this more. Where else can we go? And sure enough, they started telling me to go places, call people. They would ask me to call people, and sure enough, I would discover that they were going through something. And when I spoke to them, I just gave them insight that I heard from the angels without necessarily revealing to them that I was speaking to the angels or that insight was coming from them. And I would watch as they would shift. Now, of course, that's the early stages of doing readings for people because that's what we do. We give people insight as we're connected to the world beyond. It's seamless because it comes from our mouths, but it comes from a greater dimension. However, you frame that connectivity. And in my case, I frame it as being connected to the divine through the angels. And so, as this goes on, miraculous things started happening to me. I started seeing feathers just materialize in thin air that would guide me to where I wanted to go, or that would be a sign when I needed it. and these miraculous things would happen. And of course, imagine all of that excitement. It really is beyond joy when you're in the middle of experiencing a miracle, because you're aware that the divine realm is directly communicating and connecting with you.
Yeah.
So eventually, what happens is that they revealed to me that the world would be changing, that we would go through what they called an ascension or a migration into heaven on earth. And they pointed out to me not to be so attached to the constructs that exist in our world, like a government and a money system and other constructs, such as the medical system or whatever, because our souls would evolve beyond the need for these linear structures. And I thought, what is this all about? Humanity needs these structures in order to, create commerce and to organize it. And they said, oh, no, 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 no. These linear structures don't do anything of the sort. In fact, if anything, they wreak more havoc in the world than they do actually organize it or benefit humanity. And of course, eventually, that would reveal itself. And as we all know now in this awakened state in our planet, we can see that very clearly, that humanity is ready for more quantum structures. So they informed me that my work would be all about preparing humanity for this stage, this ascension stage, which was a terribly irrelevant conversation until about mid-March 2020, when it was apparent that extraordinary events were taking place in this world. And then people wanted an more divine explanation of what we were experiencing. And before that event, the angels told me that we were about to begin the deconstruction phase of the old linear structures, literally 2, 3 months in January, basically in January of 2020, the angels informed me that we were just about to really see the beginning of the devolvement of the old linear structures that don't serve humanity anymore. And of course, when March of 2020 rolled around and the lockdowns happened, I knew exactly what they were talking about. And for now, I just know that I'm here to help people in a myriad of ways with that connection to go through these times as we all manifest heaven on earth.
Sure. Wow, that's very amazing. I love that. And you're a medium too. How do the angels guide you with your mediumship?
Well, I say that I'm a medium because I'm an angel medium. I
Okay.
see them. And so
Uh-huh.
it's the angels that I see now and communicate with. So they're with me all the time. So the mediumship is with the angels. Often they will reveal images to me of deceased loved ones as well. I do hypnosis, so I usually more take people into, to meet their deceased loved ones through hypnosis. But there's oftentimes I'll be doing a reading or a session with people. I remember one recently where the angels showed me someone,
Mhm.
and it was someone that the person needed peace around, them being okay and on the other side. And they kept showing me a little boy sitting on the father's lap. And I said, well, the angels are showing me a little boy that's sitting on his lap as if it's his little baby or son. And the client started crying. She goes, that's my brother. And so the angels will just reveal scenes to me, just snippets, when it becomes relevant for those that are deceased or just the messages about them. But I look at them more as a relay and they'll just send me images. I know that you do mediumship work, which is fascinating to me. I love that. And so when you do that, of course, you get more, I'm sure, images and more very clear and concise information about the deceased than I would. And I'm just sort of in a different post, I guess you would say, in that regard,
Yeah,
because they just give me messages from the deceased
sure.
occasionally, whereas you're doing primarily that work, which is fascinating to me. I love that.
Oh, wow. That's good. I'm glad. Yeah,
Well,
it is
there's
fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of that needed now. And
Yeah.
as you know, because we're going through such a huge shift. So, to your
Yeah.
audience and those out there who are experiencing a lot of transition around them, and of course, it's the transition of the planet, but also, as you know, a lot of people have hit that point in their soul agreement where they're ready to go back to the other side. That means that all of the transition or death that we're seeing right now is part of the Earth's transition, because not everybody agreed to stay here and be part of the new Earth. So, for your work and working with those uh, processing the loss of a loved one, I'm sure you're seeing a lot of that now for sure.
Yes. Oh, I just want to make sure I'm understanding you correctly. You mean, and this is what I think too, but I want to see if we're on the same page, that you feel that some of the people are leaving because they don't want to be here for that, you mean? Right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
They
So,
didn't make the agreement to be here.
oh,
So they're not leaving because they
okay.
got here and
Right.
decided not to stick around for it. And for the audience, of course, I don't want anyone to hear that the times that we're about to experience are so difficult that people don't want to stick around for them, because that's not really the case when we're connected, which is part of
Yeah.
the work that I do, is help people be prepared for this period of time. Because once you're connected, there's absolutely nothing to be afraid of about this destruction phase. And of course, at the other end of this is the new earth. However, there are some people who didn't make the agreement to stick around to transition into the new earth, and their soul has other plans by
Hmm.
design. And so that's why you're seeing a lot of people exiting the planet now in one way or another. And of course, the angels say don't be attached to their age and the how that they left, because as you know, Jamie, from dealing with speaking to uh, those that have passed, no matter how illogical or avoidable their transition or death appears, they'll usually come back and say, that was my agreement. That was the way and the time that I agreed to go. And a lot of people are agreeing to go right now, or have agreed previously through their Akashic record to go right now. So you probably are seeing a lot more people come to you for that kind of healing.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And how does access to higher conscious states through connection to our angels and intuition empower us to create the life of purpose that we were born to live?
Right. That's a good question. Thank you. You know, now is a time more than ever that we're meant to be at our posts and serving our purpose. 20 years ago, sure, we had our backyard barbecues and we cared what kind of countertops we put in our kitchen and all that kind of good stuff. And we weren't really as focused on that kind of thing as we are now. But now we are definitely meant to be at our posts. And of course, our angels and spirit guides, and of course, our deceased loved ones as well, they have access to our Akashic record. They know our purpose and they know what we're meant to do. So even though we forgot what it is, in order to come to Earth, they know what it is and they're in a position to guide us. So people commonly think, of course, that the angels are going to show up when we're momentarily laying unconscious in a motorcycle accident, or when we need to find our keys or passport or something urgent like that. And that is not the case. The angels are with us all the time. They've helped me manifest jobs. They've helped me to figure out financial challenges. They've helped me figure out all kinds of challenges, including right now, I'm a digital nomad. They tell me where I need to be. And it's fantastic because they'll tell me that I'm about to go somewhere, and then the way will be shown, and I'll go there, and miraculous things will happen, just like when I went to Disneyland that first time and met those people that were stranded that I
Mhm.
was able to help. So the angels guide us in so many ways. And in the world that we live in now with so much chaos, it's so helpful to have them cut through all of the fear and to cut through the limitations of our logical mind, the one that we're used to using, and cut through those limitations and see into the direction that we're meant to go so that we can make decisions accordingly. And it's a little bit more expedient. And it's not just meant to be efficient, it also causes far less pain. Because as you know, Jamie, when we are traveling outside of the direction of our life path, things start to get painful so that we'll correct the direction. And our angels can be of great value to us because they'll help us access the grand design within. Now, one of the other things, and this is mind blowing to me, that the angels had revealed to me along the way, they said to me, you know, people refer to Earth as the school, the Earth school,
Mm.
where your soul goes to learn something. But nobody's ever discussed what you're there to learn. Like if you go to school to be an accountant, you know that the topic of study is to learn accounting.
Mhm.
Or if you
Yeah.
went to be a lawyer, you know you're studying the law. But there's so many spiritual practices that tell us that Earth is a school for the soul, but they don't ever tell us what we're here to study. And so the angels have revealed what that is. We are designed to be a creator just like the creator, all caps, refer to God or the Holy Spirit. We are
Yeah.
designed to be just like that, not to create things by accessing our bank account and going to the car dealership to buy a car, or to uh, Staples to get a Staples
Yeah.
or office supplies. We're meant to
Right.
we're meant to
Yeah.
manifest things through our imagination, just like the creator does.
Mhm.
And right now, we're starting to really access conscious creativity we call manifesting. But there are so many mind blowing levels that we have the design and the power to achieve. So
Oh,
at this time, our angels are here to assist us in our learning because we're here to learn or remember how to consciously create reality. And we're meant to go
okay.
all the way with this, all the
Yeah.
way to creating everything that we need from our imagination. And that's the power that we have within us, which is completely mind blowing. And yet, when we share that, we resonate with it. We're like, yes, that is the possibility because where we come from, we do that. And yet, we're meant to do that here or remember or learn to do that here and bring it into this world and then create amazing things from that. And imagine the
Mhm.
world when it is only left to aligned people, humans, and others that are here in full alignment and with full access to their creative potential. Imagine what this world will look like then. There will not even be a single speck of trash on the freeway anymore or
Oh,
anything like that. The earth will be clean, we'll be healed ourselves, and all of that. So that's part of what they reveal to me as to the steps that we're meant to take. So they help us access that higher areas of consciousness to keep elevating the memory that we have of our actual design, which causes us to consciously create. So the angels are very interested in our accomplishing or manifesting whatever it is that our desires, but not for the ego purpose of like being rich or whatever.
yeah.
Abundance is our default setting because we are in alignment with the source.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that makes sense. And when you talk about the new earth, it sounds like things will shift for the better. Because I know I have some people that I've talked to, they're a little nervous about maybe climate change, but it sounds like things could possibly shift for the better, right? From I've
Absolutely.
gotten
Well,
those messages too. Sorry.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, the quote unquote problems that we have in our world are purely illusory.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying that it didn't snow in Southern California last weekend or the weekend before, whenever that was, but
Yeah.
they are here temporarily as a catalyst to cause humanity to continue to dive into their conscious creativity. Because one of the things that the angel said to me about 10 years ago, because they told me that the world would get to a place where it seems like all of the problems are completely unresolvable. And
Mm.
they said, oh no, it will only be consciousness that can solve these problems. And when consciousness is entered into it, and consciousness is God or the creator,
Yeah.
when we are full of consciousness or full of being a conscious society, not a greedy one, a conscious one, when we are that, then all of this stuff will mysteriously disappear because it served as the catalyst that it was. So the climate change and all of the other stuff that is occurring, it is merely a catalyst to cause the conscious shift, and the conscious shift will use the creativity of consciousness to resolve all the challenges.
Okay. Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 And
Like,
a lot of the problems are, let's say, a bit man-made, and
yeah.
that's not meant to create a rabbit hole discussion, but what it is that by not caring or not being in consciousness, we can all participate in creating the problems. And so when we shift into conscious alignment and unity with each other, then the challenges, including, nature or the climate, and the ability for us to heal ourselves with the power of the mind, and only with the power of the mind, is restored. As well
Yeah.
as the angels have mentioned, a renewable energy source that is in our ethos. Now, it didn't surprise me when I heard that Nikola Tesla had originally, of course, created a coil that he was able to place into an automobile that was able to propel the automobile without the need for a combustion engine. It literally pulled energy out of the ground and propelled the vehicle forward. And of course, industrialists at the time couldn't profit from such a system, so that invention was suppressed. So that is just a tip of the iceberg of when we have a conscious society of all of the amazing uh, innovation that we will come up with that creates all kinds of unconceivable goodness, such as Nikola Tesla creating that kind of propulsion for a vehicle.
Right. Oh, that's pretty interesting. I like that.
Yeah.
And what is hypnosis and its relationship to the current conditions in our reality?
That's that's a good question. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, hypnosis, people often think, and it's sort of hilarious when this happens, when they come to me to ask me questions about hypnosis, I first have to assure them that I'm not going to make them cluck like a chicken or do anything
Yeah.
that they don't really want to do. And in fact, I remind them that if you're walking around and see billboards, if you watch television and see commercials, you're being hypnotized all the time against your own will. And so if you're coming to a professional who does hypnotherapy to help you achieve something, you're going to achieve your objectives through that means. And it's a bit hilarious, of course, uh, when we have to go over that, because usually they laugh, because usually there is a bit of that with people who don't understand hypnosis. But we use the term mesmerized, and that refers to when we're in a sort of a trance-like state, or when we're in a fully open conscious state. Because when we're relaxed, such as when we're in the shower or at the beach, our consciousness expands. And that's when, for example, we could take a day and go to the beach. You and I are from the beautiful Orange County beaches. We could go down to Newport or Laguna. We could have all the problems in the world. We go sit down at the beach. We take in the waves and nature. And all of a sudden, we're like, what was I worried about? I know how to
Yeah.
deal with this. I have the power within me to deal this, because our awareness goes from that shrunken place of narrow bandwidth into very high bandwidth, which is who we truly are at the place of heightened awareness or heightened connectivity, or if you want to call it a heightened brainwave state. And so hypnosis is where we access the field through that. So the term mesmerize comes from Dr. Franz Mesmer, and he was from Germany in the mid 1700s to the early mid 1800s. He was a medical doctor, and he was visionary enough to have suspected that we could actually heal the body by connecting it to the field of intelligence, which he called animal magnetism at the time. And he did a lot of work in assisting people through the relaxed, heightened brainwave state. Think of like going to the beach and relaxing, but going deeper and deeper into relaxation, and which means more and more expanded consciousness. We get into that state. Now we're accessing that field that Dr. Mesmer was aware of. And it was Dr. James Braid from Scotland, who was one of his followers, that gave it the name hypnosis or hypnotherapy. And so hypnosis and its intent was always meant to be something that opened us up or opened us back up into the connectivity, into the quantum field. That's the animal magnetism, or all that is. And so when we take people into hypnosis, they can do anything. They can go to surgery without anesthesia. You can heal from physical disease like cancer. Some people, even without the need for pharmaceuticals, that's the power that we have to create the healing in our body. We heal from trauma. We can do success programming. We can eliminate any limiting beliefs that are in our subconscious. And we can connect with our angels and spirit guides and those that have left us or those that are deceased. We can do interdimensional travel, because a lot of the work that I do, I bring the angels in to hypnotherapy, which is great. And so hypnosis is a tool for accessing the higher consciousness. And our current situation is an invitation to access higher consciousness.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening. When March of 2020 happened, and by the way, I will never use the words the media gives it, just simply because I won't give it energy. As a healer, I'm here to send energy to the new earth. So I won't anchor in those other words that rhyme with mandemic or movid that anchor that into our reality. At any rate, as we hold the frequency for the new earth, when March of 2020 rolled around, the angels said, don't you use those words. Give it the name we do, Ascension Portal, because that's what this is. And if you've noticed in the last 3 years, how many people are awakened now and awakening, and the awakening is just beginning to accelerate, which is super, super exciting, right?
Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I like that. And what is alignment and why is it important? And how do we keep staying aligned when things get difficult?
That's the tricky part. That's
right.
a very good question, because we can go into meditation, we can do a crystal bowl, sound path, we could do breath work, we could do all those things, and we get into that heightened state, and all of a sudden things start flowing, and they really do. Because the more we spend time in that expansive state, the more miraculous that things begin to happen. Now, I do a small group coaching course that teaches people and trains people basically into a deeper level of communication with their angels. When I first started teaching this, I brought people in, and what they wanted to learn was just to have that deeper level of communication with their angels so that they could be guided to solve their challenges, or to, serve their purpose, or to figure out what they need to do all of that. And all of a sudden, after the first week, people started reporting these amazing miracles that were happening to them. And I thought to myself, well, isn't that interesting? Because since I've been talking to the angels or communicating with the angels for 20 years, my life is literally a string of miracles. And the angels revealed that as we tap into that realm, we're tapping into the field. And tapping into the field also, as a byproduct, makes us more creative, activates that conscious creator that's inside of us that can do anything. And that's why we start to be more powerful. So the whole idea is that when something happens, we usually allow our mind to convince us, for example, that we need to hold a grudge or that we need to be angry because of something. And that's certainly our human reaction. But it's not helpful to stay in there because it takes us out of alignment. And alignment is the state that we want to be in so that we're continuing to access those miracles, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I tell people when they're wanting greater communication, turn off the news and turn off the media. Because when you're watching quote unquote entertainment where there's guns and violence, that's not entertainment. That's desensitizing, right? Because that's violence, and violence is not entertainment. And neither is the energy signature of someone squawking what's wrong in the world. That doesn't help us either. That's disempowering. And so those are various things that cut us off, constantly cut us off, because then all of a sudden we go into our mind, our lower mind, our human mind, and we no longer have access to the quantum field. We're connected, but we don't have access to it. And so all of this, in order to stay connected, pretty soon when we realize how much ease and grace our life is lived from, when we're in the flow and we're tapped in the more expanded state, the more we make a habit of being in an expanded state. And the more we realize when we're taken out of it, because we'll catch it and then we'll take ourselves back in. And there's a lot of great ways that we can do that. And one of them is, for example, EFT tapping. EFT tapping is a great way that when something happens, and I'll tell a story because this would be a great way to concretize it for the audience.
Right.
So a good thing that a good example of ways that we're taken out is like when we're driving and someone else is inconsiderate or aggressive with the driving, whether they're following us too closely or cutting us off, or needing to go 50 miles over the speed limit and cut everybody else off. It's very triggering when we encounter that, which we encounter that a lot now since the Ascension portal opened up, shall we say, in March of 2020, because of the collective trauma that was inflicted in that event that was the catalyst for the awakening. But when that happens, it's triggering something. So for me, I realized that as a young human, I was bullied. And so to me, when I encounter aggressiveness out on the roads, it triggers all of that stuff around the bullying, around being very justice driven, about being a peacemaker in the world. That's how I'm oriented. And so sometimes you'll see me driving, and if someone is doing something like that, I'll be at a stop line, I'll be EFT tapping because just to get that energy out, to get back into alignment, because we can, and this is what our mind will do to us, get hijacked, we can end up like 3 hours later, still being upset about that person that cut us off. And all that does is takes us out of alignment, as a great
Right.
example.
Yeah.
So we're learning to catch ourselves and have access to amazing tools that we will immediately use to put ourselves back in alignment.
Right. That's great. I love that. And what is an everyday miracle, and how do we create more of miracles in our lives?
Oh, love that. The minute you say miracle, people are like, okay, I don't want to take your class anymore because this stuff can't be real, because there can't be miracles, right? And an everyday miracle is actually when we look at certain things that will shift. So that could be something like, for example, we're looking at how we're going to pay the bills because maybe something didn't come in, and suddenly someone, for whatever reason, mentions that they valued something we did and they just happened to give us a little bit of money, and it happens to be exactly what we need.
Yeah.
It can be the job that comes through at just the right time and the perfect job. Those are everyday miracles. It can be, for example, we could have a block in a communication with someone due to a misunderstanding, and all of a sudden one of us, whether it's ourselves or another person,
Mm.
happens to run into a mutual third party out and about, has a conversation that shifts the perspective, and the next thing you know, the differences are resolved because that
Yeah.
happens. There's all kinds of interesting ways that events start taking place without utilizing the linear layout of
Hmm.
events.
Yeah.
And that's what we're switching to with the new Earth. We're leaving the linear method behind, and we're going into a quantum method. So that's where the
Oh.
miracles come from. It comes from the quantum field. So we're leaving the old linear Earth behind us energetically or through dimensions, and we're going back home into the quantum reality, which doesn't need a linear layout for things to happen. So in other words, if I want something, what would I want? A kite, to go fly a kite at the beach. I wouldn't have to necessarily go through the linear method of going to a kite store and buying the kite. I'd have a different way of actually allowing the kite to appear. I know that sounds fantastic, but there's
Yeah.
ways that we start to short circuit or circumvent all of the linear rollout of other ways. When we start to get tapped in, especially the last two jobs I had, I was guided right to them, or I was guided right into a place to have a conversation to get them. The last
Yeah.
one was when I was living in Sedona briefly. I was told by the angels, don't go looking for a job, because you know, at this point of being tapped in. And that's why it's amazing to empower people with these gifts, because this is what starts to happen on an everyday basis. They said, don't go looking for a job. We're going to find one and we're going to send it to you. And to someone who lives in a completely linear or logical mindset, that sounds like giving up control. It sounds like not doing anything. It sounds like being lazy,
Mhm.
but it's nothing of the sort, because life is always conspiring in our behalf. And all we have to do is stay connected to the quantum field, vibrate at a high frequency, and events, chain of events, will ask us to take the right actions. There will be action, but there'll be right actions. So in this case, to use it as an example,
Yeah.
I ended up going to a bookstore in Sedona to buy a book. And through that, a
Hmm.
chain of conversations took place. And even though I have my own clients and such, I wanted, a place to sort of work and meet new people.
Hmm.
Um, I ended up with a conversation, and they were looking for psychic readers. So I went and I started doing psychic readings there, and I didn't even go looking for it. I went there for a book, and then I realized why the angels told me not to go looking for it, that they would find it for me. And that's how it happened, is this chain of events. So an everyday miracle
Oh.
is that benefits us. We commonly think, for whatever
Mm.
reason, that the divine realm isn't interested in empowering us financially and in our relationships and such, but nothing could be further from the truth. And so
Oh.
events can unfold to resolve things in a way that our linear mind is not capable of doing, or the linear process may be a little bit more cumbersome.
Right. I agree with what you're saying.
Mhm.
It feels good to be like feel that way, because when you're really logical about things, sometimes it can, make things a little bit more complicated. Sometimes you just have to let go. you know.
It does make
Yeah.
things more complicated because it's a
Yeah.
denser reality.
Yep.
And I thought, boy, would it be fun to teach people how to manifest miracles. But when you say it like that, people are like, well, that's unrealistic. Why am I gonna take your class for creating miracles? And I keep thinking, well, because I've learned how to create them, and I could teach you too. And that's what I do
Yeah.
when we do that. But I realized that I had to sort of package it as a communication with the angels. And maybe there was a bit of the non intention around the creating miracles part that's helpful. but all of
Sure.
it goes together. But we do create miracles in that sense. And sometimes we'll have things
Oh,
that happen and our mouth is just
yeah,
open. And we're like, what just happened here?
that's amazing.
Mhm.
And how can people become more intuitive and gain greater access to their spiritual team?
Yes, 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 yes. Well, first of all, intuition, as you know, is the most natural thing about us.
Yeah.
And the only thing that happens that disconnects us from our intuition is that we're watching too much violent television in the news, among
Yeah.
other things, but we're also programmed to see everything in strictly a logical way, and that the logical world trumps out the quantum world. In other words, that it is the pervasive power or force or reality that is real. And ultimately, what happens is that we start to realize how often we're already accessing our intuition and just open up that more. So, in much the same way I use the being in the shower or driving example, where we go into auto hypnosis, we go into that heightened brainwave state, and all of a sudden these great ideas come through. That's our intuition. So, there are certain things like we realize if we go out on a camping or glamping trip and we're sitting around the campfire, that fire actually triggers us into hypnosis, just like candles do. That's why candles are placed in a relaxing atmosphere, or to create, as you know, a relaxing atmosphere, is because fire or the flame actually is one of the things like water or nature that causes us to go into heart and mind cohesion, which is that heightened brainwave state, because our heart is where our awareness is parked, and our mind is where our logical and linear awareness, that's where we access to that to navigate through the physical world. And when the two are working together, basically the heart or consciousness is in the driver's seat and the mind is riding shotgun. Okay.
Mhm.
And when the two are there, then it's a powerful combination. And that's when we're at our optimum state. So, what that means ultimately is that we access our heart through love. One of the things that I teach when I teach intuition is just to actually go out and experience love, because
Yeah.
when we raise our awareness to love, all of a sudden our awareness expands and we start to become aware of things that our mind can't conceive. So it's actually not learning a
Mhm.
skill,
Yeah,
it's unlearning the block from our natural ability.
I see. And what do angels say is happening in our world right now? I know we kind of went over this, but why are things so challenging and where are they leading us? I don't know if you want to talk a little bit more about that or.
It's it's guaranteed that
Mhm.
we get to the ascended earth,
Okay.
because everything that's inherent in the design of the actual creation of earth was only set up to teach us to be conscious creators. It's not an actual, let's say, real earth where
Yeah.
it can actually be hijacked into a bad direction, so to speak, a totalitarian system with a horrible climate. That's not even a possibility that's built in. It can't be created by the creator because the creator isn't interested in experiencing its creativity locked down as it is alive in us.
Mhm.
So, where it is that the angels say that we're going is that, like every other transition, which looks real ugly at the beginning, we're going to an amazing place. And the microcosm to the macrocosm is that every time that we ourselves have transformation, it always leads us to a much better spot. And that's exactly what's occurring. There isn't any reason to believe or to funnel energy to any other possibility, because all we're doing when we're doing that is wasting our light.
Yeah, exactly. Did
Mm.
they give you a timeline on when this is happening? I know time is hard.
Well,
It's,
yes, to a certain degree,
mhm.
yes.
Okay.
Now, what's funny is that um, before the great Ascension portal opened up in March of 2020, I used to share with people what the angels would say about this happening in our lifetime. And people be like, nah, this isn't going to happen in our lifetime. And because all of those that are in charge of the linear structures and benefit from it, they're never going to let this happen. Like they don't have a choice. The creator is the creator, and that is that. And they can do whatever they want, but all they'll do is they'll end up facing a big wall in the same way that when we do something that's out of alignment with the path that we're supposed to be on, we hit resistance, so we can't do it. So
Right.
whoever they are, they're going to hit the same resistance. It's just going to be bigger. Okay.
Okay.
And yeah, so that's a good way of looking at it, right?
Sure.
And so as far as timeline goes, they said it will happen in our lifetime. We will
Okay.
be here and alive to experience the new earth that will not have the linear structures that hamper humanity, the ones that we
Yeah.
would just love to eliminate if we had the power to push a button. But they're
Right.
still here to teach the various aspects of humanity. So they'll only be here as long as they are teaching mechanism, and they'll
Hmm.
only be up to no good as long as they are a teaching mechanism and they excite conscious growth.
Yeah.
And for those that are connected, you'll be immune from everything that this transition has to offer that's difficult. But we
Oh.
will experience the new earth in our lifetime.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love
Mhm.
that.
Yes.
And how can people connect with their angels every day?
So we just ask them,
Mhm.
and they'll start
Okay.
sending us signs. So sometimes they'll start with the feathers and the coins, and then you'll start hearing the right words and songs and overhearing conversations. And then what happens is that slowly we get stretched into a greater sense of faith, of knowing that we truly are connected. At one time, it dawned on me when I started communicating with the angels, and I would encounter people who would say that because of their religion, that they couldn't accept that a person could talk to their angels. And I started even going to logic and scratching my head and said, well, if God gave me a guardian angel to watch over and guide me, how can they guide me if I can't hear from them or talk to
Yeah.
them? That doesn't
Right.
make any sense to me, right? Does that make
Hmm.
sense to you?
Not
No,
really.
no. But we've been that's been ingrained or
Yeah.
indoctrinated in people, so
Sure.
it doesn't necessarily have a basis in anything except for having been told you can't do that. Don't play
Hmm.
around in that quantum field. It's dangerous up there, but it's so high frequency, it can't be. So ultimately, when we start asking them and we take a small step to them, they will take a quantum leap to meet us. And Jamie, as you know, one of the things that's interesting that happens is the minute that we reach out to them, even circumstances and events in our life will
Yeah.
begin to accommodate this newfound level of communication. Something will happen that will be part of the lesson. It won't be purely interior. In other
Okay.
words, right?
Yeah.
So when I got the guidance to go to Disneyland and the woman with her little boys were stranded,
Yeah.
afterward the woman called me because she took my business card out of my car. She called me and she mentioned to me that because I stopped to help her, that she believed in angels again. So
Oh,
events will happen. So events will begin to take place that will actually also be revealing, that will continue to open us up to the ability to have two-way communication with our angels and spirit
wow.
guides.
Oh, I love that.
Mhm.
And are we assigned a special angel to help us, or do we have a team of angels, or are they different every day? Or
Right. Well, we need a relationship with a separate being because we live in a world of perceived separateness. When we're connecting with the angels, be it the archangels or Nancy the parking angel, which is very helpful in Southern California, as you know. We can designate a parking angel or designate an angel for our finances or our business or whatever. It's still just the entire field of consciousness in the quantum field that can sort of embody itself into what appears to us as separate beings so that we can have a relationship with it. But our angels are actually the portion of our consciousness that we left behind in the quantum realm while we're dipped in here. Think of the tip of the iceberg sort of theory. So we're here in this dimension, but the majority of who we are is still in the quantum or heavenly dimension. So our angels are the part of us that's still in the heavenly dimension that can appear to us as these separate, wonderful beings in whatever form they present themselves as, in whatever relationship we need to have with them.
Okay. Well, that's great. And can you talk about your website and your offerings? You offer quite a lot of services.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
well, first of all, I love to invite people to my Angel Inspired Conscious community, which is complimentary. And that is just to be of service. And within that community, there's an opportunity to meet other conscious travelers just like you. Speaking of being in an expanded state, it's so important more than ever to be connected to other people who are conscious, because they keep us in our expanded state, as opposed to spending a lot of time with chronic complainers or people who are still embodying lower frequency, because they take us in and out of that optimum state. But this is an opportunity to meet people who are also aware of different things than what's in the mainstream about connecting to higher frequency. But also I offer 2 events with the angels. One is a meditation, one is a sort of a channeling with a Q&A. Also, I have the deck of cards, the Ascension with the Angels Tarot deck, which is a deck of cards, and that can be ordered from the website. And those were channeled from the angels, and I was told that there's an activation of energy in there. And it's interesting when people get them and can tell me that they're aware of the energy in there. So that's really great. And then I also teach how to use tarot to access your higher conscious states and manifest. And I do that through a community. And within that community, you have access to the community to be able to do like tarot spreads. There's a 10 module complete course to teach you about all the cards, including the Rider-Waite deck and the Ascension with the Angels deck. And then twice monthly, I do live group coaching with that. But it's more than just a tarot class, because it's an Angels Ascension with the Angels tarot class. So it's using the tarot to connect with the angels, to connect with your higher self, and to manifest. So when we're doing the small group coaching, we also do mostly about spiritual or conscious growth, or the way that we utilize the guidance that comes from there to manifest. And of course, I do offer hypnotherapy and readings as well as other events, including the small group coaching course, which is a 1-month course for learning to communicate with the angels, which really turns out to be a small group course for creating miracles. So if you're down with that, we can do that.
Oh, I like that. And you have a podcast too. I don't know if you want to tell the audience about it and where they can find you, or
So
the title of it. Yeah.
the podcast is coming back to life. So it's good. I have a couple of them. One is going to be a channeled podcast, channeling the angels regarding the new earth. But I'm doing something that's not so much in the conscious space, but it's in the conscious space. And I'm launching one called the Love Project. And in it, it's not about spirituality per se. It is about love, which is the universal language of connectivity to the quantum field, but behind the scenes by promoting more love in the world. So in there, an audience is going to, and a guest is going to come in with an idea of something that we can do to spread more love in the world. So my co-host and I on that show are going to do that thing with them, whatever it is. We're going to talk about it on the episode, and then we're going to invite the audience to do that thing as well. So we're going to be creating these waves of love being propagated in the world. So that's something that's upcoming. But if you stay in touch with me. Of course, when that gets launched, which will be sometime this year, it'll be an amazing, fun project that came to me in a dream with the angels one time.
Oh my goodness. I can't wait to see that or hear
You'll have
about
to
it or
you'll have to
yeah,
be a
that's fun.
guest.
Oh
You
yeah,
have
I'd
to be a
love
guest.
to.
That would be
Yeah, that would be
amazing.
awesome. I'd love
Yes.
to. Definitely. And oh, you're a filmmaker too. I don't know if you want to talk about that or
Yeah.
what.
Thank you. So,
Mm-hmm.
I right away when the angels came to me, I was guided to film school and I was
Oh,
doing some acting. Well, I am meant to create films about the conscious movement, about consciousness, and in any way that actually utilizes the medium to empower people and empower humanity. So there are some films or some film ideas that are currently in the works. And every time I go to say film, because there's one big film I'm working on, I always hear the angels say, films, they're films, not a film. You have films to make, not a film. And I said, okay, great. So there's films coming. And so we're
cool.
working on some amazing projects with that. Keep in touch with me about that too, because there's might be one of those that you would love to come play with us.
Yeah, that would be great. I can't wait. And where can people find you on social media?
I have an Instagram page at Talk
Yeah.
to My Angels. That's a great way
Okay.
to connect with me. I'm not a big poster on social media because most of my work is done in the quantum and in through organizing people so that the community and connecting with people one-on-one and word of mouth and building that community that way. Um, and so because I spend my energy there for now, right now, Instagram is just a simple way if you're on the platform to be able to DM me or to kind of get an idea visually of the work that I do.
Sure. Or just to see what you're up to,
Yeah,
or yeah,
yeah.
definitely. That sounds great. And our tagline from the show was igniting your spirit. How do you ignite your spirit?
By actually stopping to become aware of the love that is around us all the time in nature, in each other, and in the great plan of being here on such an adventure in a body on earth.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And I just have one last question before we go. What do the angels look like? I mean, do they look like what we see in paintings?
No,
No.
they look like little flecks of light.
Okay.
They come here, like people say orbs. Orbs is a great way to say that, or we can see orbs or little flecks of light. That's how they look in this dimension. And when we visit them in hypnosis, they look like all kinds of things. When we actually travel out of this dense dimension, within this dense dimension, they look like orbs or flecks of light. When we allow ourselves to astral travel through higher consciousness, I've had people whose angel is a lumberjack or looks like a lumberjack. They shapeshift in so many different ways. Sometimes they've come wearing a suit. One time I connected with Archangel Gabriel in a deep meditation. He had tattoos and he was kind of like, he looked like a rocker, but that's not saying that's what he looks like. It's just saying that when we go and astral travel to visit them, they'll take on the appearance they need to for us. And
Mm.
so they'll shapeshift to look like what they need to for us. So when I was communicating with Archangel Gabriel, for example, that time, he just wanted to be casual. So he was kind of like, had a little long hair, had some tattoos. He was just kind of like a cool, hip guy. And so that doesn't mean that's what he looks like for everybody. But in this dimension, they look like orbs or flecks of light. So if you've ever been looking and all of a sudden you see like a little flicker of light, like a little speck of light, like almost like a sparkler or a spark of light, that's the way they appear to us in this dimension. And when we visit, we can visit them astrally, and they'll take whatever form they need to for us to relate to them.
Wow, that's neat. And can they ever take human form if they needed to help somebody here on Earth?
There's plenty of them that are here right now during this transition that
Okay.
are in human bodies. And we call those earth angels. And
Yeah.
those are people who appear to be human who have taken a lifetime right now to fulfill their angelic mission and being here. So there are lots of angels on this earth right now.
Wow. That's amazing. Is there anything you want to add before we go?
Just love and blessings to you and your audience, and just the sincerest intent that today's content is and will be of value.
That's wonderful. And people can find you at talktomyangels.com if they
Yes.
want to utilize your services and
Thank
connect
you,
with
Jamie.
you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thanks.